I wanted to talk about passing data down through your components in React and how we can use. So, what is prop drilling and how we can avoid that, and how we can use this really cool thing called React context. And I have this small demo here prepared for this uh, tutorial, which I will also have it in the description below. So normally your application has a skeleton something like this. So you have your main application, which has a navigation and a layout. The layout has a sidebar and a main content here. Now, generally, what happens on normal applications is as soon as you load your application state, you want to get some kind of user information, and that is what I'm doing here right now. I just get my user information on my initial application load and set that user info here. Now what I want is I want my user information uh, available in my component called navigation and also in my layout, particularly in the sidebar here as well. Now my user API right now is just mocked. It doesn't do anything. It just returns me an ID, a name, and a picture after 2 seconds. But that is not what I wanted to focus about. I wanted to focus about on how we can pass data to our application. So, for example, I'll also open the console just for the sake of this. So, as soon as my application loads, I call in an API, and what it does is it returns me an ID, name, and a picture. Oh, I just saw this. Warning, can't perform a React state update on an unmounted component. Cool. So maybe medium, Imran, this one. Uh, this article here talks in a lot of details on how you can on how you can update your state in your React applications the right way. I'll also attach the article link in this video as well. But just as a small hack here, what I can do is I can say let is mounted. Is my application mounted? Yes, it is right now. And if it is mounted, if is mounted, only then update my state. Otherwise, do nothing. Do not set my state. And when this component or this life cycle unmounts, what I want to do is I want to change my is mounted state to false. So now there's now we won't get that error. And I talk a lot of details as to why this happens and how we can avoid it the proper way in this article. Okay, so anyways, I call this user API dot get user information and I get this information, ID, name, and picture. Now that you know of that, uh, maybe in my application state, I have my navigation and also in my layout, I have my sidebar. So I'll just pass in my user information to navigation and let's go in user props. I have an image here. So I'll do user dot props dot user. And now as soon as my application loads, I have my profile picture here. And basically this image does nothing. It just looks at if I do not have a user, return an empty white circle, which you saw earlier. If I have an image, if I have the user information, just load that image up. It does nothing else. And also I want this information in my layout as well. This is my layout, the sidebar, and the main content. And in sidebar here, so layout, this should be called layout, sorry. Yeah. So in my layout, I have a component called sidebar and I have this main content here. Inside sidebar, if I pass in my user, sorry, if I pass in my props.user, so what I get here is my profile picture and my name here. Maybe you can say something like this, log out Adeel Imran. Yeah. So if I log in, if I have my user information, it should say, it should give my profile picture and should also say log out my name, Adeel Imran. Now, what do I have to do for that? I have the same information called user, and I pass in it in my navigation. Inside my navigation, I pass into the image, and in the image, I consume it here. So, and also I pass that user information in layout, and inside layout, I pass that user information into my sidebar. So the application state of my user is loaded here, and then I I have this component called navigation, which has this component called image, which uses that user information. And also in my application state, I have another component called layout, which is a collection of this component called sidebar and this main. And inside the sidebar component, I have to use this user information. Now I have to pass in my props from the application state to my navigation, and from my navigation to image, and also from my application state to the layout, and from my layout to the sidebar as well, which is just such a pain. So what I will do is I will just remove all of this here as well, and I will come a bit up, and I will do const user. Just hold on with me, and I'll explain this in a bit. React dot create context empty object for now, and maybe I could do user context dot provider, and probably take this here, and in the value inside is what I pass in my user object. And then I come in here, I don't need this here at all, sorry, no, I don't need this. And then I can do is just react dot use context, and I can say user context, and what I can do is I can export this. You can also move this to a separate file, but just for the sake of this video, I'm not doing this. So import user context from index should work. Cool, it works. And I'll just copy this here. I'll remove the props user from here. I don't have to do that. And then I could just say react dot use context user context, and it should work here somehow. All right, so initially my state is, and maybe what I can do is, since we're doing it, I can also say is loading is loading. I'll add another state. So, I don't know, const loading set loading react dot use state. I'll say this false. It's false for now, but before this happens, I want to say set loading to true and set loading to false. Or I can just do this. So as soon as my application loads, it's always loading, and once I have my information, I'll just set this information to false, and I can say loading and maybe remove this because okay. And then I can come in here and maybe not here, and I can come in here and say loading user and is not loading, and then see a better user experience. I'll load this up again, profile picture. Yeah, the image is loading. It's a network call. That's a separate topic for a separate day. But yeah, you can see how powerful this context is. Context that you don't have to pass in one prop to the next level and to the next level and can be like nth levels down. You can just wrap it in a main provider, pass in your state like you would do in Redux and stuff like that, and then just directly use it wherever you want it inside anywhere inside that parent which is using that provider. And fun fact, React router that everyone uses for their navigation uses this context, and they've been using this since day one in their library to handle state changes globally without us even knowing it. And this was not very far back when the React team announced about context, and I think is just super cool. Uh, and yeah, hopefully, I hope that this was helpful to you, and I'll attach the link for this article and this application with this context and everything in the description. So check it out and do let me know. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.